Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Write and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon. I am your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. The Free Beacon podcast is available on iTunes and Google Play. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon editor-in-chief and member of the establishment, Matthew Continetti. You might remember him from such mainstream media shows as Meet the Press and NPR's Talk of the Nation. You can follow him on Twitter at Continetti. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Liz.
Further to Matt's right is Free Beacon president and newest member of the Trump legal team, Aaron Harrison. We're not exactly sure what he does around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
Thanks for having me.
Up first on Write and Writer, President Trump has named John Bolton as his new national security advisor, replacing H.R. McMaster. The New York Times reports we now have, quote, one of the most hawkish national security teams of any White House in recent history. But not so fast. NPR is reporting Bolton once appeared in a, quote, Kremlin-linked Russian gun rights video. The plot thickens, Matt.
Right. Well, you would say that would come up in a confirmation hearing, but Bolton doesn't need to go through a confirmation hearing. He, as national security advisor, he is appointed at the pleasure of the president. You know, the thing about John Bolton is no one has ever really understood him. I've seen him identified as a paleocon, who is typically anti-war and anti-democracy promotion. And I've also seen him identified as a neocon, who is typically hawkish on foreign policy and pro-war and also for democracy promotion. So he's been in D.C. for 30-some years, and no one's ever really figured him out. The thing about John Bolton is he is definitely kind of an America First guy. He views foreign policy as a hawk who's interested in promoting America's national interest, maybe not necessarily in interfering with the internal affairs of other countries. The other thing about him, he's an extremely savvy bureaucratic operator. And that's usually why he's made such so many enemies over the years, is because he's very good at getting what he wants through the bureaucratic process. This will be a big change for the White House.
Harrison, he's also got the power mustache.
Well, listen, being sexy has never been a hindrance to enforcing strict national security policies and protecting the interests of America. Listen, I'm pretty excited about this pick, and here's why. Donald Trump keeps another promise. We're talking about draining the swamp. There is no bigger swamp drainer than John Bolton. He is the number one enemy of the swamp. Well, maybe number one that's not currently the president, enemy of the swamp. He has spent a career making all the right enemies in Washington. When 2006, he was nominated to be the permanent UN ambassador. Was that it? Or
2005, he was nominated by George W. Bush to be the UN ambassador, and then his appointment was held up by the Senate for 2 years. And so that's why he was recessed appointed.
Right. So, but when after he served his recess appointment of 1 year, he came up for permanent confirmation. And one of the greatest moments in U.S. Senate history is when squishy rhino Republican George Voinovich of Ohio went to the Senate floor and broke into tears against John Bolton because John Bolton was like mean to one of his staffers one time 5 years prior to that. I mean, it was really amazing. And it's like, that is the bureaucracy. That is the swamp right there. Like, he makes some of these people cry. Oh, boo-hoo. He's getting things done. This is a strong advocate for America and for America's national defense. I'm pumped.
You know, one thing, though, is Bolton, like we say, he can run up against other people. He can throw blows in the bureaucratic sphere. He has to worry about the president, and there's one person who sets the agenda. And that's why I think all of the kind of manic panic by liberals and even some dovish conservatives over Bolton's appointment is misplaced, because he's going to have to respond to Trump. That's the one thing we've learned throughout all of this. How those two personalities mesh, I think, is the story to watch. And you know what? This appointment may not last that long.
Well, I happen to think that this is actually something that may have been worked on over the previous year. We've heard John Bolton's name brought up for numerous administration posts. If it is a personality clash, I hope that they've worked it out. And I do think that John Bolton is a really intelligent, brilliant guy who probably gets that dynamic and is going to work his best to manage it.
Right. Up next, Congress passed a 2,232-page, $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill. It released and voted on in less than 2 days. The bill does not fund the wall, but Congress gave itself a bonus, and at least there's millions of dollars for breastfeeding grants, whatever that means. Chuck Schumer feels pretty darn good about the bill. Trump is now threatening to veto it over DACA and the wall. Harrison, should he?
Veto.
Shut her down.
Veto, shut it down. Get him out of here. This thing, it stinks on ice. Let me tell you something. When you see fake tears Chuck go out there and praise this thing as like a bill that's going to really do a lot of good for the middle class, that right there is a red flag. You should know when Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi go out there to praise a spending bill that something's rotten in Denmark, I hope Donald Trump vetoes this son of a bitch before the end of the day.
Matt?
I have to agree with Aaron. I think that the president would probably be on solid ground if he went into a shutdown fight over DACA and the wall. And I think that's the biggest blow to Trump in this bill. Is he wanted $26 billion for the wall. They gave him $1.6 billion with restrictions that Nancy Pelosi was crowing about. This is a big loss for Trump, and he only realized that after the bill was passed, which shows you some of his weaknesses. He not having political experience was an asset when he ran for president in 2016, but it has allowed the Republican Congress to undermine the very agenda that won him the presidency, in my view, and that could be a big problem not only right now but also in 2018 and 2020.
But what's up with the Republicans, right? I mean, I remember when $1 trillion bills and $1 trillion deficits were a bad thing, and now they increase spending on everything, but no money for the wall.
Look, it's emblematic of the fact that we got a lot of swamp rats on our side of the aisle that still exist in Congress. Look, this bill sucks so hard, precisely for what Matt said. I think the president, if I'm not one to really criticize my president, but if I had to, he's been far too deferential to the Ryan Republicans in the House, who honestly, they're embarrassed about the wall. They're not really committed to it. You do have a large contingent within the Republican caucus that wants to see this get done, but they have really kind of botched this. And I think that Trump sending it back to them is going to be a good thing. It's going to get their mind right because they got an election coming up. They got to have something that they've been, promises kept, promises made. Like, if they want to get reelected, they got to deliver.
I'd just say, finally, Trump won the nomination and the presidency by distinguishing himself from the Republican Party in 4 ways. One was on trade. He was for renegotiating our trade agreements and for not entering the TPP. Another was immigration, where he wanted not only to really enforce laws against illegal immigration, but build the wall and change legal immigration. The third was war. He repudiated the Iraq War. And the fourth was entitlements. He was against any changes to Social Security and Medicare. The thing about those have been Democratic, with the exception of immigration. Those have been kind of Democratic positions since the end of the Cold War. Trump took them onto the Republican portfolio and I think became a much stronger candidate as a result, but they can go back to the Democrats. At those issues, the Democrats, if they want, they can recapture them, and I think they have been since last year.
Up next, crazy Joe Biden was at it again, saying he would beat the hell out of Trump if he was in high school. For context, that would have been in the 1950s. Trump, of course, responded that he would wipe the floor with Biden. Meanwhile, Jeff Flake and Cory Booker were showing off their softer sides during a snowball fight. Matt, who you got, Trump or Biden?
I think they'd both die in the course of the wrestling match. I don't think either one has the physical capability to wrestle one another.
What a preposterous statement. We've got Donald Trump, by every physician that's ever examined him, says he is in absolutely perfect health. Now, Joe Biden, on the other hand, has a history of brain aneurysm, mental illness.
Trump can't walk his own golf course.
What are you talking
can't
about?
Walk his own golf course. He rides around in the golf cart.
How many rounds of golf have you played with Donald Trump?
I don't need to play the golf to see the photos in the pool report.
Listen,
I just know.
Can I explain something to you?
Yes.
The only reason that Trump drives a cart is for the ladies. All right? Listen.
He doesn't
And
drive
we're going to
the
get
cart.
to that up next.
He always drives the cart. He drives the cart onto the green. It's his course. He drives the cart. He plays the golf. He's in great shape. He kicks Joe Biden's
give you
no questions asked.
Trump would beat Biden in golf, but I'm telling you, after the first punch is landed, they both fall over dead.
Dead.
That's a preposterous statement. Donald Trump, highest energy president in history. Joe Biden, never going to be president. Not
Highest
even
energy
president.
with no physical exertion.
It's amazing. Look, I think he's an incredible athlete. He's good at everything.
Very, very good points. But can we just also say about it's not just Biden who's threatening the president; it's the whole resistance that wants to beat him up, or all the violent rhetoric.
Trump shows everyone. He brings out the true self of everybody, so the liberals who just really kind of want to pummel the opposition into a bloody pulp. You see that
Liz Warren's language.
Yeah, like Liz Warren. Whenever she writes about Republicans and conservatives, she's ready to fight them, beat them up, punch them. There's a lot of angry people.
But
out there.
it's also so forced, right? Like Hillary Clinton, she ran in 2008 when she finally got her mojo. She was a fighter, right? Okay, so now fast forward 8 years, we got Trump, who is a genuine pugilist when it comes to the public arena. And now you have all of these Democrats that Trump has dragged down to his level. And in the meantime, he exposes them as these disingenuous, wannabe, what they call in the rap community a studio gangsta, with these fake threats. Like, they're empty. They're not backing them up, and they're trying to compete with each other. Like, you look at that clown Terry McAuliffe versus Biden. Like, they're trying to one up each other, and then little Lizzie Warren is getting in there and trying to throw some punches.
Well, no, I got to tell you,
it's a joke.
Trump Biden would be a draw, but I think Liz Warren would shiv Trump. I am afraid of her.
Scrappy.
I wish she's scrappy. Exactly.
Scary.
She would reach for like the broken bottle.
Truly terrifying. Up next, former Playboy playmate Karen McDougal apparently wanted out of her non-disclosure agreement to accuse Donald Trump of being brilliant, very sweet, very kind, very caring, a nice person, and a nice-looking man with great posture. Meanwhile, Stormy Daniels has also been interviewed by Anderson Cooper, which is set to air on 60 Minutes Sunday. Harrison, how high is Trump going to go up in the polls?
Listen, I was taken in by this Karen McDougal interview last night on CNN.
She's still in love with the guy, I think.
Well, I think this is the deal, right? Okay, so here, I've got a lot of thoughts on this matter. This may take the rest of the show.
Okay, I'll get some more coffee.
Yeah, go fill her up. So, listen, Karen McDougal, clearly we have a jilted lover here. This woman genuinely, I believe, fell in love with Donald Trump. Okay, now I'm not going to weigh in on whether or not sexual intercourse actually happened between the two of them, but what I will say is that she was genuinely in love. I believe that. And we have somebody who couldn't land the big one, all right? And listen, a lot of ladies like Donald Trump. He's very divisive amongst the female community in this country, I think, and I've studied this a little bit over the past week, is that it appears that after these interviews have come out, and after reading this GQ article about his weekend in Tahoe, where there were 4 adult film actresses and a Playboy and a Playmate of the Year that were all in hot pursuit of our president, what I have found out through my studies is that Donald Trump is incredibly popular amongst very attractive women. And the women who don't like Donald Trump tend to be blue-haired or purple-haired tattooed up porkers, and they're also largely way fugglier than most of the women that Donald Trump has been accused of having relationships with. So I think that's really what the heart of this matter is here, is that the beautiful, smart, funny, attractive women, they can't get enough Trump. It's not his fault. He was just born this way.
A strong correlation, Matt. What are your
Fascinating
thoughts?
research you've done there, Harrison. My mind is kind of blown. So you've identified a new dividing line in American politics between the ugly gap.
Well,
really,
that's what you're saying.
I don't know if that's necessarily new.
You're saying
just
the
saying.
pretty people like Trump and ugly people dislike him.
Yeah, just look at
saying?
Fox News versus the other network.
Look, I think it is a significant electoral challenge heading into the midterms, and it has
Well,
kept his
aren't
popularity
there?
down.
What is the? I mean, we have to go research the disparate in just sheer numbers. How many ugly people there are versus how many pretty people? Because the polls seem to show that women have turned against Donald Trump. By your analysis, that would mean that those women are all ugly.
Well, look, that's not just my opinion. Okay, I've talked to a lot of people in the sociological community. I've got a lot of sources that have studied this and have reported back to me that yes, it's true. The fuglies out there, they do outnumber the good-looking people, but once again, this is a natural challenge that Donald Trump is going to face. We have seen this from day one in his support. Now that we've covered the sociological aspects.
Oh, there's more. There's more.
I want to get into the journalistic value of what Anderson Cooper is doing.
Who's interviewed both Stormy and Karen. I mean, Trump has probably slept with hundreds
right.
of
there could be a
porn
lot
stars
more material
and models over the years. So
it's not
going to be busy.
This is the rest of Anderson's career.
Look, all I'm saying is that it's either Donald Trump has been faithful to his beautiful wife Melania, or he's had sexual relationships with many like perfect tens and very good looking porn stars. So those are really the only two choices here. I think Donald Trump's coming out ahead either way. But let me get back to Anderson real quick. His sex obsession has exposed him as being one of the biggest degenerate perverts in the media. I want to take everybody back to the year 1992 when Jennifer Flowers held a press conference to discuss her admitted relationship that Slick Willie Bill Clinton came out and admitted several years later. She held a national press conference, and at the time, one of Howard Stern's producers named Stuttering John interrupted the press conference to ask in a joking manner whether Governor Clinton used a condom during the act. Last night, Anderson Cooper did that in a serious fashion. He asked Karen McDougal flat out if she had unprotected sex with Donald Trump.
Well, which they also asked Stormy. That's also in the Stormy review.
So we have actually gone from Howard Stern parody over the last 25 years to this being a serious journalistic issue that needs to be flushed out on national television. The guy's a pervert, and I think it's such a ratings play. His panel afterwards basically trashed the news value of having her on there because there was nothing untoward other than possibly adultery that was discussed. He didn't do anything that she didn't want him to do. She fell in love with him, and their relationship fell apart. It's not a big deal. We know Donald Trump is very attractive to beautiful women.
We all know this. Before we jump into our culture round of Right and Writer, it's time to check in with our pop culture expert, Natalie Johnson. Hello, Natalie.
Hello, Liz.
So you heard it here first. The cuffing season is over. The breakups continue. Can you give us an update, please?
I can. We had Tiffany Trump and her 2-year beau. They are over. But I want to get into this because what I find really interesting is the media is already attacking their relationship and putting it into the same basket as Don Jr.'s relationship ending. Vanity Fair had a headline, Tiffany Trump catches the Trump family breakup virus, which is very dramatic. Tiffany Trump, I want to just say right here, Tiffany Trump is 24 years old.
Yeah.
And she ain't looking for a husband right now, okay? Her dad is the president. She's a good-looking girl. She's in law school. She's intelligent. She is not trying to get married right now.
Yeah, and she moved here to Georgetown, It was a long-distance thing. Let her be single, have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of Junior, Daily Mail had an explosive scoop. They've really been on a roll lately with the Rob Porter, Hope Hicks thing, and now this. They've discovered something about Trump Jr. What was that?
They had Aubrey O'Day, who is the singer of Fifth Harmony, who they believe had an affair with Don Jr.
What is Fifth Harmony?
It's a band that came out of, I don't know, Diddy's show, Making the Band or whatever. Anyway, aside the point, back to Daily Mail.
Yeah.
We had an investigative analysis of this picture that Aubrey O'Day had posted on Twitter back in 2012, captioned of 2 sets of feet. My babe is protecting my feet from bunion attacks. True love feet. So the Daily Mail, with their astute reporters, did a deep dive into this and actually found a bunch of photos of Don Jr.'s feet and compared them complete with a photo sliding tool.
The slide.
Well, what did they find?
Oh, it was 100% his
Dude,
feet.
they have, you slide it over and you have the foot from the Aubrey O'Day's,
Yes.
and then you have a foot from a boat,
From a vacation picture.
fishing trip, and you slide it over. It's the same foot.
Same foot.
But once
Same
again,
foot.
He's caught red-handed.
But once again, we're starting to see the superiority of the Trump DNA translating through generations. We've got another very
Strong
attractive,
feet.
famous woman that's can't get enough Don Jr.
It is true. And I was angered by the media outrage over this. We had one media outlet calling it the worst thing you'll see on the internet today. I strongly disagree. This is literally why Al Gore created the internet. It's for things like this. I mean, come on. As Harrison said last episode, it's great radio to discuss pictures. So here we are again.
That's very true.
I think most of our listeners know how to find him on Google.
You made a picture in my mind. That's what's important.
Finally, we need to update on the Miranda for Governor's race.
Yes.
A couple of these Sex and the City co-hosts have weighed in. This could be good news for her.
I think it's great news for her. As I said last episode, there is nothing more iconically New York than Sex in the City. Nothing. We had Charlotte. I really don't know her name in real life.
Kristen Davis.
Yes, Charlotte.
Kristen.
She endorsed Cynthia Nixon for governor. That's fine. That's a good endorsement. But we had Kim Cattrall, my girl, Samantha, pull in the big guns and endorse Cynthia Nixon. I think this is great for her. I think this is a solid win at this point.
Exactly. And the only one that's still silent is SJP. Yep. Which, Kim Cattrall is looking pretty good now. She came out before SJP
Exactly.
did. And I love her the way she endorsed her. She said, I support and respect any former colleague's right to make their own career choices. And then she said, I know she'd be an excellent governor.
Exactly. So, it's not the most strong-hearted endorsement, but, it's Kim
It's
Cattrall,
classic
Samantha.
Samantha. Yes.
It's very classy.
Okay, thank you very much for this update, Natalie.
Of course. Thank you.
Up first for Culture, Right and Writer, a new study found that Twitter violates women's human rights and can be a, quote, hostile and dangerous place if you're not a man. Well, for women and for Sunny Bunch, who people like to call a nugget and sunny bunches of oat-flecked horse shit. Harrison, you make Twitter hostile and dangerous for liberals.
Well, look, I think this is people that are get pissed off that they got wet by jumping into the ocean. Look, you come into the Twitter jungle, you're going to get cracked. You got to have a thick skin if you're doing Twitter. Look, I'm not personally on Twitter. I watch it. I observe it. I don't really participate, but I do support people getting beat up with deserve.
Not on Twitter.
He's such a liar. He's such a liar. The thing about this study, which I think is total BS, because Harrison is right. Everyone on Twitter is attacked.
Exactly. It's
everyone.
only women.
It's men. It's Jews are singled out. It's everybody. But New York Magazine published a story about the study, and Twitter rushes to offer this lengthy kind of apology defense, saying we would never create a hostile space for women. Well, of course, meanwhile, Twitter just last week shut down the account of Steven Crowder, who's a conservative comedian. Right. And not part of the alt-right or anything, but they just banned him, and it took a real public pressure campaign to get him back. And so Twitter is hostile. The platform is hostile to conservatives, and they do. They'll ban people, but letting Louis Farrakhan still keep his presence there. That's, I think, the real issue you have to look at.
Well, I also think Twitter's not really the most psychologically healthy thing to be participating in.
No.
I've found that not being on Twitter has actually increased my quality of life compared to others that obsess on Twitter all day.
Yes. Very, very good that you're never on Twitter. Up next, the Facebook controversy has launched a delete Facebook campaign where many users are fleeing the app for the Facebook-owned Instagram. Matt, if millions quit social media, could this possibly save America?
It would. It would. I'm proud to say that I deleted my Facebook account in
Here we go.
2007. That's all I'm saying. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying it was a decade ago. I'm not on Instagram. social media is bad for America. It's bad for Americans. They should get off of it. This whole idea that Mark Zuckerberg's founding idea that bringing people together to share would make the world a better place is empirically false. As we've now had over a decade of experimentation, the evidence is it is false. These technologies have been bad for all of us. And, people should delete them outright before the government starts regulating them, which is going to happen.
Yeah. Harrison?
Well, look, I think that Facebook in its inception was actually a good idea. I think Facebook used to be fun. Facebook used to be a restricted community just to college students or recent college grads who you had to have a university email address to even be able to get onto Facebook. Now, when they realized that they had this huge value of having this massive database of everybody's, whims and likes and actions on a daily basis, they decided to monetize it, send this thing public. And in order to get a broader user base, they opened it up to everybody. Well, this was a fundamental misunderstanding on their part because they didn't realize that when you let old people get onto the internet and onto your website, they're going to ultimately destroy it. They needed an age limit on Facebook of like 30. Like once you hit 30, like that becomes weddings and babies. And if you're older than that, then it's your kids and your stupid political opinions and your forwards and your memes. It dumbs it down and it ruins the user experience. Kids get the internet. It's fun to be on it, but old people ruin things, and they've ruined Facebook. Facebook sucks now, and that's why I don't really know a lot of other people that are like under the age of 40 that use Facebook anymore.
Matt, and no more thoughts?
Well, just, remember the whole technology was supposed to replicate digitally the actual physical book one got. I got one.
Right.
When I showed up in 1999, I had a book waiting for me in my dorm of all the people in my class.
Target list.
And that was the thing. That's why it was expanded to limited to undergraduates when they first created. I mean, this is the only reason why people used the Facebook to begin with, which was to check out their college classmates. And since then, it's turned into this behemoth, which is basically a publisher. And it needs to start being treated like a publisher, not the book that showed up in my dorm, so you got to check out who all the cute girls were.
Up next, Wes Anderson is out with a new animated film, Isle of Dogs, set in dystopian future Japan, where all the dogs are exiled to an island because of canine flu. Naturally, people are crying cultural appropriation and upset that the dogs speak English. And Anderson's staple cast of Bill Murray, Angelica Houston, and Jeff Goldblum are not East Asian. Harrison, when did movie reviews become college essays on intersectionality?
Well, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't really care. This isn't my expertise. This is like a Lewis Bunch the Fourth expertise area. I spent most of my 20s being exposed to Wes Anderson films through various friends and ladies that thought it was so great, and I never got it. I think every one of his movies sucks.
Hey.
They were so boring. I don't think I've ever been able to actually stay awake in a Wes Anderson movie other than Rushmore, and everything else has been just crap. And I have no interest in seeing his animated feature. It sounds boring. I don't watch kids' movies because I'm a freaking adult. So anyway, I really just don't care about Wes Anderson.
Matt, are you a Wes Anderson fan?
Meh.
Yeah.
I liked Fantastic Mr. Fox. I liked the Budapest Hotel one.
You don't like Royal Tenenbaums?
I've always said it was overrated.
Awful.
I like
terrible movie. Boring. Didn't get it.
You don't get. It's funny.
Rushmore is my favorite too.
Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums are.
If a movie's funny, you don't have to say, "But it's funny." Okay, that is just.
I don't think it's supposed to be funny. It's this. He's a very kind of peculiar person. The movies are all about creating his own little world.
Eli
and
Cash
some people
is
find
funny.
those worlds appealing.
Owen Wilson in that character is hilarious. Okay.
Hipsters love Wes Anderson. That's a good
the point,
both
though,
wrong.
To talk about cultural appropriation, regardless of whether we dislike or like Wes Anderson, this issue of the Japanese dog has to be played by a Japanese actor. That's insane. It's insane. It's an animated movie, and two, it's dogs.
Yeah, how do you do a diversity writer or whatever?
Only a German Shepherd should voice the German Shepherd character. It's crazy.
You want to be true, to the subject.
No, this idea. No, I think it's anti-dog. I think it's anti-canine to think
Yeah.
that as soon as the dog shows up in a country, they assume the cultural characteristics of that nationality. That's you know what that is? That's speciesism.
Right. At least we were discussing what the actual style of the filmmaking and not this crazy